Hi, I am Chitra.
I am Madhvi.
I'm Jyothi.
I'm Suchitra.
Together, we are your hosts.
On the Aedge podcast.
We bring you stories and experiences.
From our experiments around learning, marketing, and design,
These are stories of people, technology,
And people interacting through technology.
Of what we see, create,
and recommend.
Neologism is a relatively recent term, word, or phrase that is coined and entered mainstream usage. Words like selfie, to Google, mansplain, clickbait are terms that have emerged into everyday use. One such acronym is FOMO. The internet, cultural changes, or simply word of mouth give rise to such words, and more are being added as we speak to the now famous Urban Dictionary. Poets and philosophers have always searched for the right word to describe human suffering. And today, there's FOMO, the fear of missing out, that captures the anxiety and depression suffered by people at large in our society. Hello and welcome to the Edge podcast. This is the second set of episodes in the Cognitive Biases series, Rarely Rational. I am Jyothi, and today joining me is my co host Suchitra. Hi, Suchitra.
Hi, Jyothi. Glad to be back in this cognitive bias series, Rarely Rational. And I'm sure it's going to be much more interesting and exciting than the first set of series. So, what is that we are going to talk about, Jyoti, today? What is the aspect that we are going to cover in the cognitive bias series?
Yeah, so before that, I'm sure you know sometimes there are instances where you suddenly realize that you don't have your phone with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, there are extreme cases where people are so dependent on their phones. There is a term called nomophobia. It's the fear of not having one's phone, you know? And
Yeah,
so,
I can totally imagine that.
so today we're talking about the fear of missing out. That is the term that became popular in recent times with social media being such an integral part of our lives, right? And the Wikipedia definition would be FOMO is characterized by the desire to stay continually connected with what others are doing. Okay, so when did you recently experience FOMO, or and what have you done? Anything crazy?
Yeah, this fear of missing out, I think we experience it in our day-to-day lives, be it personal or professional, right? So everybody wants to stay on par with the trends and information. I think that has become very, very important today. Having all the data on your fingertip and staying connected with the information. And so, for instance, recently there was this big billion sale or the great Indian sale, whatever we have on these e-commerce platforms, right? I think that is also a type of FOMO, just to make these sales keep running in people's mind that okay, today there is a big sale today, and tomorrow this is not going to be available at this rate. So I think all these are also part of the FOMO that we are currently talking. So even though you might not be intending to buy stuff during this period, you keep thinking about what you have missed out, even if it is a difference of 100 rupees, right? You will think, okay, oh my God, I missed out this sale, which was like just 200 rupees yesterday, and today, see, it's going to be 350 rupees. So I think that kind of fear or anxiety that you're missing out on something, be it the trend or be it the information, be it the work, be it your personal life, staying connected and getting to know everything immediately is something that we are experiencing in our day-to-day lives. So I believe that the SM, the social media, and many such campaigns also play a major role in increasing the FOMO primarily, and keeping us anxious, and the anxiety keeps building up. So what do you think, Jyoti? What is the role of social media in increasing the FOMO?
Oh, yeah. In my experience, there are a lot of times when I have fallen to this trap, right? I think e-commerce and consumerism is the best example to give on
Mm.
a day-to-day basis. There is also a term called FOBO. It's like a sibling of FOMO. So FOBO is the fear of a better option. That is sort of a little opposite to FOMO, because you're talking about always waiting for a better option to come along. In FOMO, you are wondering what you might miss out on, but in FOBO, you just are waiting for something better to come along, and you might not even make a decision quickly. So back to FOMO, yeah, I think thanks to our social media platforms, Insta, FB, whatever, they add on to the feelings of missing out, or either being left out of experiences. In my experience, I can bring about an instance where I have enrolled in too many online courses just to keep up with others at the workplace. Or FOMO as a new mom, I'm constantly anxious, wondering if I'm doing everything right for my baby, if I'm buying the right kind of toys, or giving him the right kind of activities. And so as a new mom, experiencing FOMO is another aspect of my life.
I
And
totally get
while
that.
social media seems to be the main culprit here, I read that FOMO is not something very new. In fact, there is an idiom in English language called keeping up with the Joneses, which originated at the beginning of 20th century and is often linked to FOMO, because that idiom meant comparing to one's neighbor as a benchmark in social class. I think even the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians is like a perfect example for this day and age.
I get that because see, in the recent times, right, there are a lot of reality shows like this Coffee with Karan, Big Boss, which is, I think, a lot of Indian audience can connect with these shows because it's only a reflection of what people at large want to consume as entertainment, right? So we are more intrigued as an individual to know what has happened in that episode, what's happening in a celebrity's personal life, whether the same would have happened with us or as a information or discussion, right? When you just go out or hang out with friends, suddenly they discuss some episodes like this and you feel left out. So either you like it or not, you just want to understand what is happening and keep yourself filled up with information and the trends is what I feel.
So we've discussed how FOMO has manifested in different ways. How do you think FOMO has impacted the workplace culture?
As we discussed earlier, everybody is going through this FOMO in our day-to-day lives in some or the other way. So currently, every individual or person in tech, right, tech space constantly has a FOMO and what they should learn. So how can they be on par with the ever-changing technology to sustain in the tech space, right? So this is definitely creating a lot of fear in the minds to have a secure job too. So you need to upskill yourself and you must be in a race to constantly upskill yourself to sustain that race. In fact, a recent study showed that 35 to 40% of employees are not even taking a leave due to the guilt of losing out on the progress that they have made. So FOMO has affected people's paid off time too, is what I understand. So they fear to apply leave, thinking that if you are going to be on leave during a particular time or you take leave, how will you be left out and what will you miss out during that period? So thinking all these aspects, a lot of people don't even apply for leave. That's not a good sign though. But on the other hand, there are a lot of women who want to get back to work or restart their career after breaks, right? We see a lot of programs also like come back to work. But I honestly feel that these women who want to get back to work, they have a pressure which is building, or the fear of missing out again comes into picture. Seeing their peers and colleagues who have gone up the ladders and thought of being left out, that they belong nowhere, pushes them into this FOMO again. So one positive part to this is that a lot of organizations are coming up with returnship programs for those who wish to get back to work. We have a program called Smart Start by Adeptic Labs that helps women who want to restart their career with confidence.
Oh, yes, please go ahead and listen to another episode in our podcast where we talk all about Smart Start and what it is. So, yeah, I think you raised good points there, Suchi. The example of Smart Start just reminds me of how FOMO can also be capitalized by products in a number of ways. Primarily, it is a marketing strategy for several brands to increase conversions. We even talked about how certain e-commerce brands, a very basic example of using this FOMO is through having flash sales, which kind of build on this urgency factor. Then people would think that they might miss out something, or they are being left out of some experience. And FOMO is not always a dark pattern. When you say dark pattern, it's not always this trick that you're arm twisting the user into buying something or doing something which is not in his interest. FOMO, I think, can also be used ethically. The only time it is a problem is when you convey the sense of urgency or limitation, which makes the user to be under a stress to make a decision. Only then it
Right.
might not be ethical. I think for that matter, even product managers, face FOMO while designing a product, building a roadmap for a product. FOMO, so essentially, would also end up stalling product innovation. For example, I think where we see product managers facing FOMO could be how certain apps are so bloated with features. Product managers are trying to include every feature that is just there just because, or they might be including features to compete with another product, or so that's how product managers face FOMO while designing product. I think one of the examples I'd like to bring here is how we have these light versions of apps, like we have Messenger Lite, Instagram Lite, Twitter Lite.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to say here is earlier Messenger was supposed to be a simple online conversation app, but as the days go, like now currently all our messenger apps are so robust and bloating with features, and this is somewhere not desirable in cases because apparently almost 80% of these features are not even used by users. So this kind of feature bloat is what they say, right, is not very desirable. So this is where product managers are nowadays trying to slim down apps, and these light versions of apps are a result of this kind of thinking. There may be parts of the product that are simply not working, and it's better for features to also be removed. Embrace the sunset and be okay with having a product which has just the right number of features which makes the user happy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Totally agree with it. See, basically the point that you told right now, the feature bloat, right? So that comes more in the perspective of being in the top 10 list when a user looks out for an app. So you want to include every single feature that is available in the competitor's app, and then you try putting everything, and then you want to be on par. So basically, the fear of missing out and having all the features that the competitor has puts you into this situation. And then again, we should be more realistic and see what the user needs, and bring out products that makes any user's life simpler, right? On the same note, Jyoti, as
Hmm.
part of our work experiences, I have always felt that we need to constantly learn, and then there are some days where I have felt that I have missed out on something that, and I was not on par with the others, because thinking that they are performing better than me, and then they are kind of doing or learning things better than what I do. So this was constantly running in the back of my mind, and I was getting frequently stressed in the race to prove myself. I think all these sums up to the topic that we are discussing today, right, Jyoti, the FOMO. So, how do you think
Hmm.
we can actually overcome this anxiety or the fear of missing out? I just thought it would be a great conversation to understand how to get rid of this FOMO.
Hmm. I think for this, I have another word. The sibling of, or probably another sibling, the opposite of FOMO. I heard there's something called JOMO. Have you heard of it?
I think FOBO. I think it's a lot, but yes.
JOMO, is another term coined. It's called the joy of missing out. Because see, FOMO is the main driver of FOMO is the social pressure to be
Right.
at the right place or with the right people, experiencing something which someone else is experiencing,
Mm-mm.
or just it simply could also be a fear of missing out on a better deal. If you're talking about e-commerce and those kind of experiences, it's not just about doing something what others are doing, but also not regretting about some choice that you made earlier. So all these things come under FOMO. FOMO. So, what JOMO is saying is it is the emotionally intelligent antidote to FOMO. Essentially, it is, about being in the present and being content with where you are at in life, tuning out these background noises of should and want, and, just learning to let go. I think learning to let go is like this, the new mantra of also being like happy in life nowadays, right? I think the general philosophy of learning to be content is probably going to apply here too in workplace, at workplace, in personal lives.
True, true. I think we shouldn't sound more philosophical here or not to preach. But I think sometimes it is good to make merry that you missed out on something, because so the art of letting go and not holding to it and enjoying every single thing that is, or every small moment that is happening, is all about JOMO, right? So, what are you waiting for? So, this episode is more about JOMO than FOMO. So, keep calm and just JOMO.
Yeah, this was it about today's Rarely Rational series, a fun talk about FOMO. So stay tuned to the Edge podcast for more interesting episodes like this. Bye.
Bye.
Please subscribe to the Edge podcast on your favorite podcast channel. We are on Google, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. If you liked this episode, please share it with your friends. If you have stories to share and want to be featured on our podcast, write to us at podcasts@adepticlabs.com.